On what seemed like an ordinary night of political commentary, live television erupted into chaos as Piers Morgan unleashed a brutal and unrelenting attack on Bill Maher. What began as a tense discussion quickly spiraled into one of the most unforgettable moments in live broadcast history. The atmosphere grew electric as the two outspoken figures clashed over deeply divisive topics, leaving the audience shocked and captivated. How far would Piers Morgan go in this fierce confrontation? What truths, or provocations, were hidden beneath the heated words? Stay with us as this dramatic encounter unfolds. Make sure to like and subscribe to catch every moment of this explosive story. The studio lights flickered softly over the set, casting a calm glow as the cameras began rolling. The audience was settled in, anticipating the usual mix of sharp wit and political insight from two of television's most provocative voices, Piers Morgan and Bill Maher. But from the moment the conversation started, it was clear this would not be an ordinary night. Piers Morgan's demeanor was unusually intense, his eyes narrowing as he leaned forward into the microphone. Bill Maher, known for his sardonic humor and biting commentary, responded with his trademark dry wit, but there was a tension underneath that was impossible to ignore. As the discussion shifted to recent political scandals and cultural conflicts, Piers suddenly launched into a searing critique of Bill's positions and past remarks. His tone was sharp, deliberate, and relentless. "Bill," Piers said, "you've long claimed to be a champion of free speech and reasoned debate, but what we see instead is a tired cynicism disguised as wit. Do you truly believe you're contributing anything meaningful, or are you just recycling the same old narratives to stay relevant?" The question hung in the air, heavy and provocative. The audience leaned in, sensing the undercurrent of personal challenge. Bill Maher's lips curled into a wry smile, but there was no mistaking the flicker of irritation in his eyes. "So, now you're the arbiter of meaningful discourse?" he shot back. "I didn't realize you were suddenly qualified to judge who's relevant and who's not." What followed was a rapid-fire volley of barbs and rebuttals, each man refusing to yield ground. Piers's attack was brutal but calculated, touching on moments where Bill's commentary had stirred controversy or fallen short of its lofty ideals. Was Piers merely stirring the pot for spectacle, or was there a deeper critique beneath the surface? Was Bill Maher's cynicism a shield, or a flaw that deserved to be called out? As the exchange grew heated, the viewers were left questioning the boundaries of respectful debate on live television. How much truth can be delivered under the guise of attack? When does confrontation cross into personal destruction? And what are the consequences when two powerful personalities refuse to back down? The tension was palpable, thickening with every word, and just as the audience was bracing for a possible off-air apology or quick resolution, Piers Morgan struck with a final cutting question that left Bill Maher momentarily speechless. The silence that followed was deafening. The weight of Piers Morgan's final question from the previous exchange seemed to linger over the studio like a thick fog. Bill Maher sat back, momentarily silent as if searching for the right words, the wheels visibly turning behind his eyes. The usually quick-witted host had been caught off guard, and the audience could feel the shift in the energy. It was the kind of silence that said more than any words could, but Bill was no stranger to pressure. With a measured breath, he leaned forward again, his tone cooler, more controlled. "You want to reduce years of commentary, conversation, and sometimes controversy to a single moment of meaningful speech?" he asked, almost rhetorically. "Isn't that the problem with this entire political conversation today? We demand perfection, or else it's dismissed outright. We demand certainty, or else doubt is branded disloyalty." His words echoed around the studio, inviting the audience to reconsider the nature of discourse itself. Was Piers Morgan's brutal attack a necessary reckoning or a dangerous oversimplification? Was the demand for a perfect narrative choking the very breath out of honest debate? What place was left for nuance or growth when every statement was dissected with ruthless finality? Piers shifted in his seat, his expression hardening. Nuance is a luxury reserved for those who can afford it, he shot back. For the rest of us, reality is harsher. People are hurting, they're angry, and they're tired of the same old lines dressed up as insight. You've built a career on being the court jester of politics, Bill, but there's a difference between humor and responsibility. The confrontation cut deeper than the usual banter, touching on the complex relationship between entertainment and political engagement. Was it fair to criticize a comedian for the limitations of their platform? Should a commentator who uses humor to engage with difficult topics be held to the same standards as a traditional journalist or politician? And beyond that, was Piers Morgan acknowledging or dismissing the genuine frustrations of millions watching from home? As the verbal battle intensified, the host of the show, seated quietly between the two men, tried to interject, reminding them of the time and the format, but the momentum was unstoppable. The live broadcast had become a battleground for ideas, for egos, and for the future of political conversation itself. What had started as a simple interview had turned into a raw and unfiltered reckoning. Throughout the heated back and forth, viewers could see glimpses of the vulnerability behind the bravado. Piers's critiques, though harsh, seemed fueled by a genuine frustration with the political status quo. Bill's sharp retorts revealed a deep weariness with the polarization and cynicism that plagued public discourse. Neither man was just playing a role. They were revealing the fractures in a system stretched to its breaking point. Then came a moment that shifted the tone once again. Bill, with a sudden intensity, asked Piers, "But tell me this, what is the alternative? What's your solution to this chaos you so vehemently criticize?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Could Piers offer a vision beyond the attack? Was there hope, or only despair lurking behind his fierce rhetoric? Piers paused, then gave a response that surprised many watching. "The alternative," he said slowly, "is accountability. It's honesty. It's courage to admit when we've been wrong and the willingness to listen, not just shout louder." His eyes locked with Bill's, a moment of mutual recognition, passing between them. We need less noise and more truth. Can we find that together, or are we destined to keep tearing each other apart on live television? The studio audience, along with millions watching at home, felt the gravity of the moment. Was this the turning point, or merely a pause before the storm resumed? Could two men so different in style and substance find common ground in the chaos of modern political debate? Before an answer could be given, the broadcast moved on to the next segment, leaving viewers to digest the intensity of what they had witnessed and wonder what it all meant for the future of public discourse. The question remained: was this confrontation a destructive clash, or the beginning of a much-needed conversation? As the cameras briefly cut away for a commercial break, the tension in the studio remained palpable. Both Piers Morgan and Bill Maher sat silently, the weight of their earlier exchange settling like dust after a storm. When the broadcast resumed, the atmosphere had shifted, no longer just a clash of personalities, but a deeper exploration of the fissures tearing through political dialogue in modern America. Piers broke the silence first, his voice steady yet charged. "Bill, this isn't just about you or me. It's about the broader culture we're part of. How did we get to this point where every discussion becomes a battlefield? Where truth and civility are casualties? When did political discourse become so toxic that we're left shouting at each other instead of listening?" The question was not merely rhetorical. It was a challenge to the entire system. Bill nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It's a spiral, isn't it? Media sensationalism, social media echo chambers, tribalism. It all feeds off itself. We're trapped in cycles of outrage, where the loudest voice drowns out nuance. But if that's the environment, how do we break free without losing our edge?" Their dialogue took on a reflective tone, moving beyond personal jabs to confront the underlying crisis. Was the aggressive style of debate on live television a symptom or a cause of societal division? Could the very platforms meant to inform the public also be driving wedges deeper between communities? Piers leaned forward, his eyes intense. We have to demand better, from ourselves, from the media, and from those in power. Accountability doesn't just mean pointing fingers, it means owning our mistakes and striving for honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Bill countered. But isn't honesty complicated? Sometimes people say things to provoke, to challenge, or even to entertain. Does that make them dishonest or just human? Are we asking too much from public figures, or too little from the public that consumes their words? The back and forth was a microcosm of the larger societal debate. Where does responsibility lie? In the speaker or the listener? How do humor and satire fit into political discourse without undermining serious conversation? Can empathy survive in an arena dominated by competition and spectacle? As their conversation deepened, the emotional stakes grew higher. Piers's frustration was evident when he spoke about the real-world consequences of political polarization. Families divided, communities fractured, trust eroding. Bill's counterpoints revealed his concern about censorship, the loss of free expression, and the risk of alienating those who feel unheard. Yet, despite the intensity, a subtle undercurrent of respect threaded through their exchange. Neither man backed down, but both seemed aware that the issues they grappled with were larger than themselves. It was a rare moment of vulnerability amid the usual bravado. Then, unexpectedly, Bill Maher shifted gears. He posed a provocative question that caught even Piers off guard. If we're both angry about the state of things, why do you think we keep coming back to the same arguments on live television? Are we part of the problem we're trying to fix? The room fell silent again, as if the question echoed in the minds of everyone watching. Was this clash a cycle of performance, designed more to entertain than to enlighten? Were they trapped by the very formats that demanded spectacle and confrontation? Piers's reply was measured but sincere. Maybe we are, but recognizing that is the first step to change. We can either keep tearing each other down for ratings, or we can try to build something better. But it requires honesty, humility, and courage, qualities in short supply these days. As the segment drew to a close, the audience was left with a sense of unresolved tension but also a glimmer of hope. Could two of the most polarizing figures on television model a path toward more meaningful conversation? Could their battle spark a shift in how public discourse is conducted, or would it simply be another moment of spectacle lost to time? The cameras panned out, capturing Piers Morgan and Bill Maher exchanging one last look, not of antagonism, but of mutual recognition. In that gaze lay the complexity of modern debate. Fierce, flawed, but with the possibility of something more. The studio lights dimmed slightly as the conversation moved toward its final act, but the intensity between Piers Morgan and Bill Maher had not waned. If anything, the earlier moments of reflection only deepened the stakes. Both men were acutely aware that this exchange was more than just entertainment. It was a reflection of a society grappling with its own fractures, a live mirror held up to political and cultural chaos. Piers Morgan, usually known for his sharp tongue and unrelenting stance, seemed to soften just a fraction as he addressed the audience directly. We're at a crossroads, folks. What you see here tonight is not just a clash of egos, it's a symptom of a deeper malaise. Can we truly find common ground in a world where truth is so often twisted to fit agendas? Or are we doomed to a cycle of outrage and division that tears at the very fabric of our communities? His words lingered in the air, heavy with implication. Bill Maher, no stranger to controversy himself, nodded solemnly. It's a question we all need to ask ourselves. How much of what we believe is shaped by genuine conviction, and how much is a product of the media echo chambers we inhabit? Are we truly listening to each other, or just shouting louder over the noise? The dialogue returned to the personal, as Piers recounted moments from his career when he witnessed the media's power to both unite and divide. He spoke of interviews gone wrong, headlines that sparked outrage, and the fine line between reporting and sensationalism. Bill responded with stories of his own, reflecting on how comedy and satire had evolved into weapons of political commentary, sometimes blurring the line between humor and hostility. Yet amid these reflections, the tension flared once again. Bill challenged Piers with a pointed question. "You accuse the media of dividing us, but aren't you part of the problem? Don't you play into the spectacle, knowing it drives ratings and clicks?" The room seemed to hold its breath as Piers shot back, "And you think you're above it? Your show thrives on provocation. We're both complicit in this, but we have to ask, what's the alternative? Silence? Politeness that masks real anger and injustice?" The confrontation cut to the heart of the matter. Was there a way to be both honest and responsible in media? Could anger be expressed without descending into vitriol? The audience was left wrestling with these questions alongside the hosts. Then, unexpectedly, the conversation took a surprising turn toward solutions. Piers proposed a radical idea. What if, instead of fueling division for ratings, media figures took responsibility for fostering dialogue that encouraged understanding? What if they created spaces where opposing views could be discussed respectfully and constructively? Bill, initially skeptical, slowly warmed to the concept. "It sounds idealistic, but maybe that's what we need. If we want to change the culture of debate, it has to start somewhere. Why not here, now?" For a fleeting moment, the battle-hardened hosts seemed united by a shared purpose, transcending their differences. The cameras captured a rare camaraderie as they talked about bridging divides, repairing trust, and the importance of empathy in public discourse. But the moment was fragile. The realities of their professions loomed large. Ratings, public expectations, the relentless pace of news cycles. Could such an idealistic vision survive the harsh demands of the industry? As the segment neared its end, Piers looked directly into the camera, his voice steady but earnest. "We're not perfect. We make mistakes. But if we all demand more, from the media, from politicians, from ourselves, maybe, just maybe, we can start to heal this fractured conversation." Bill added, "Change won't come easy, and it won't come overnight. But every dialogue, every debate, every moment of honest engagement is a step forward. Are we ready to take those steps?" The show closed on this hopeful yet challenging note, leaving viewers to ponder their own role in the national conversation. Was it enough to watch and critique from the sidelines, or did everyone have a responsibility to engage thoughtfully and with respect? As the credits rolled, the audience was left with a question that cut deeper than any headline. In a world hungry for truth and connection, who will lead the way? As the closing moments of the broadcast unfolded, the atmosphere in the studio felt charged with a sense of gravity and possibility. The earlier fiery exchanges between Piers Morgan and Bill Maher had softened into a rare moment of mutual understanding, though the undercurrent of tension remained a reminder of the deeply rooted divisions that still simmered beneath the surface. Bill leaned forward, his tone less confrontational now, more reflective. "Tonight wasn't just about us throwing barbs or defending egos. It was about exposing the cracks in how we communicate, the pitfalls we fall into when anger overshadows reason. If the audience takes away anything from this, I hope it's the need for more listening and less shouting." Piers nodded in agreement, his usual sharp demeanor tempered with sincerity. We have to ask ourselves, can media be a bridge instead of a battlefield? Can we, as public figures, take responsibility for the words we choose and the effects those words have on millions? It's a daunting task, but one worth striving for. The hosts acknowledged that despite their differences, they shared a common frustration with the status quo, a media landscape that too often rewarded division and sensationalism over nuance and understanding. Yet both recognized the power they wielded to influence public discourse and the need to wield it with greater care. What followed was an unplanned moment of candidness. Piers recounted a story from his early days in journalism, a time when he believed fiercely in the power of truth, but learned firsthand how easily it could be manipulated or lost in the pursuit of ratings. Bill shared his own journey from comedian to commentator, and how his approach had evolved as he grappled with the responsibilities that came with his platform. Together, they challenged the notion that confrontation and outrage were the only paths to engagement. They posed a challenge to their peers and viewers alike, to embrace complexity, to seek out uncomfortable truths without resorting to mockery or dismissal. Could the media landscape shift from spectacle to substance? The audience, having witnessed the raw honesty and emotional weight of the dialogue, seemed poised on the edge of a new understanding. The camera panned to the live crowd, faces a mix of surprise, reflection, and cautious hope. Piers and Bill ended the segment by emphasizing that change would not come from one broadcast or one conversation, but through sustained effort by individuals who demand better from themselves and from those who shape public opinion. "It's easy to be cynical," Bill said, "but giving up isn't an option if we want to see a better future." Piers added, "Every dialogue, every respectful disagreement, every moment of genuine connection chips away at the walls that divide us. That's where the real work begins." The show faded out not with a dramatic explosion of emotion, but with a quiet resolve that resonated far beyond the studio. It was a call to action, one that challenged viewers to rethink their own engagement with media and each other. As the screen went dark, the question lingered in the air. In an age defined by polarization and noise, can honesty and empathy reclaim the narrative? And if so, what role will each of us play in that transformation? This final moment of reflection left the audience not with despair, but with a spark of hope, a reminder that even in the fiercest battles, there is room for understanding, growth, and ultimately unity.